Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
Hi.
And this one is about you and something you're going through. We don't talk a lot about your shit.
Nah.
And I suppose sometimes it can be argued that I talk too much about my shit, but I'm an open book and I don't mind waxing poetic.
Sure.
So just to give some background knowledge, I'll keep it as brief as I can. Your son
My son.
is about to turn 18.
Yep.
He just left for the Marines.
Correct.
This is a big change in your life that he's gone now and can't really contact you much until he gets done in mid-September.
Yeah. He graduated this past spring. He then, we had to kind of quick rush to do a grad party because he was shipping out to basic on June 24th. So not even a month after, or less than a month after he graduated, but roughly about 2 months before he turned 18. So,
And 4 days before your birthday.
Yeah. So we got a chance to have like dinner and celebrate pretty much all of our birthdays because mine, my wife's, they're a week apart, and then he'll be gone for his. So we thought, let's just do something beforehand. So that was kind of nice. But it was a big deal.
Real quick, I just want to interject with this bit of background information.
Sure.
Now, this is the oldest child of any of my friends, of my current circle of friends.
Sure.
Obviously, I had another friend with older kids, but I don't talk to that friend anymore. And I don't care what his kids are doing, honestly. Sorry.
Sure.
But your son,
My son.
when you were with his mom back in the day, I was dating a chick, and we were the ones that got to babysit him for the first time when you guys went for your first post-birth outing to get away from being stuck in the house with a baby. So I've been in this child's life, his entire life, to varying degrees.
Absolutely.
Much more so his first 6 or 7 years. And then you moved, and then when you and his mom weren't together, he spent time with her. So anyways, this is a big deal for me also, because it's like having a kid that for years was like a nephew to me, and he's fucking flown out of the nest, and it's like, fuck, we're old.
Well, what was great about it is he was in Little League in this area for so many years, and the park that he would play at was just right down the road. And so often you guys would come down, you and the girls and everything else like that would come and hang out. And yeah, you've definitely been a big part of his life. So it's great to see him move on to that next phase. It's nerve-wracking, something like this. I don't think you ever want your kid to put themselves in harm's way, but there are plenty of people that go into the military and never see any harm, especially nowadays when it comes to the actual casualty rates of people when they actually go to war now. But they're still in the back of your mind. You're concerned about his safety.
Hey, he likes video games. Maybe he'll get to fly drones.
Right. There's a couple things about it that, make it a little bit easier, though. As somebody who's nervous for his safety, on one hand, I'm so proud of him, the fact that he is picking something and going for it at such an age. He wanted to go in early to get done early. He wants to part of it is the honor. Part of it is his grandpa was in the Marines for 8 years, was then in the Navy for 20.
Jesus.
And also was a recruiter, mind you. So what was good about that is, on one hand, it was almost predetermined that he was going to go. But on the other hand, he got a lot of information. And so his grandpa's been kind of getting him prepared, getting him ready as much as you can, right? I mean, something like that, you're never going to really truly be prepared. But it's tough. Yeah, he called the first night when he got to base. Basically, it's something that they do this not pre-recorded message, but they read from a script. So there's no like chatting back and forth. They just leave you a message where they're just basically shouting into the phone because it's so loud there. They're processing all these guys coming in. And then I also got kind of a boilerplate letter in the mail, and that he was able to scribble a little note on about kind of how he was doing and all that stuff. And that's the only contact yet. And I can begin writing him letters now, and I've got one written. I just need to send it out. But yeah, it's tough. He might get phone privileges, but other people say no, that he won't be talking to him until about the time he graduates in September. So it's a big change because he is my only child, right? My oldest and my youngest all in one. So I'm now an empty nester with 3 cats. So
What about his cousin now?
his cousin is older than him by like a year and a half. He went into the army.
Okay.
It's interesting.
I figured that the grandpa would steer him also into the military.
Yeah, it's interesting. This young man, his dad is in the army, basically left to join the army shortly after his son was born because he couldn't really handle it. He was constantly deployed over in like Korea or down in Oklahoma. Never really saw his son much, but then his son goes into the army as well, and he's going to be a combat engineer, so he's going to deal with like explosives and like the big heavy guns, 50 cals and stuff like that. So, right, never thought little skinny was going to turn into the guy running the heavy machinery, but yeah. But my son is going in for general engineering, so I'm really hoping it's something a little bit more technical, that he gets something out of it too. And that was kind of his whole thing going into it, is he wants to get something for when he is done. He has another friend that he graduated with that's going into the Marines with him as well, and is the only guy in the group when we went to the send-off. There was like 30 Marines that were newly going in. He was the only one for general infantry. And basically what they say is general infantry is they teach you how to use just about every gun really, really well. But what are you going to do with that afterward, right? Unless you
open a gun shop. Right?
Unless you're going to go be a mercenary overseas somewhere, or you're going to be, security. But so, yeah, that was tough. So that was a couple weeks ago he left. So this will delve into a whole nother thing.
Right, that's the kind of heartstring tuggy part of the episode.
Yes.
Now let's get into the ha 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 part of the episode.
Well, there is one little thing I want to add. So the day he left, right, I thought I was doing pretty good because I hadn't broken down. I'd been getting misty a few times before he left. But then it wasn't until he had actually sent me the text that he was getting on the plane and leaving that I then went to voice to text family about it. And my voice was just cracking, and I broke down in the car. It was one of those moments where it was just kind of hit you that he's actually gone type of thing, and that was tough.
He didn't send any text I don't know, I'm kind of starting to get scared here. What the fuck did I sign myself up for?
I think if he was feeling that, there was no way he was going to let it be known that he was feeling that. I think he really realized that, okay, this is it. This is what I signed up for. Let's get it done in some ways, even though I'm sure he was eyes wide open, nervous too. But so before he shipped out on the Monday, they had kind of a informal get together at the hotel on 3:00. So he has to be there, checked in and at the hotel by 9:30 the night before, pretty much because he's in their care at that point. But 3:00, they hold a little session where they kind of go through the plan for the next 13 weeks, what they can expect, kind of the rules on writing letters, contact, what you can and cannot send them, things like that, and just for them to answer any general questions. So naturally, his mom was there.
Oh, God.
And so was my wife and I. And we sat on different sides of this whole thing. And
why is that?
Oh, right, because the restraining order. But beyond the fact that we just don't like each other, right?
Well, hang on. Let's just real quick. The restraining order is in place against his mom by your wife because of an incident where she got piffed and showed up at your house unannounced and walked into the house, and the Ring doorbell caught all of this shit where she was trying to start a physical fight in your entryway.
She thought she could open the door and walk in and start physically fighting my wife. Yep, so there's a restraining order, which is set to expire actually tomorrow, ironically enough. After I tell you all about this, my wife is looking to re-up it for a little bit longer, just because there's been some violations, which is the layers that we'll get to. We go to this thing, and there's the restraining order, but the thing is my wife has not used it, or unless my son's mom has reached out or tried to make contact, or you know what I mean. There's supposed to be a 500-foot limit or whatever it is, but obviously if we're there for my son, there's no way, I think, if my son's mom was already there, it's not like can push her out, right?
Right.
We go to this thing. No big deal. we had made plans with my son after this whole thing to spend some time with him. We were going to take him out to dinner, like I said, do the birthday dinner thing and just kind of chill with him for a few hours and then get him back to the hotel later. Well, his mom, even though she had been with him all week and weekend before he shipped out, thought, oh, we're just all going to hang out together. Which right away, my wife was like, no, we're not. And I'm like, oh, hold on. Let's talk about this. Let's step off to the side and let's talk about this.
Easy,
right?
girl, easy.
She was livid. It was to the point where I've seen my wife get mad, and when she's really upset, if you've ever seen somebody's pupils shake, you know what I mean? Like their eyes, they just kind of are shaking.
So not like an alcoholic that has natural horizontal gaze and astigmatism.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
This was like that much rage and adrenaline rushing through her, and she thought I knew about this, and I'm like, oh, I did not know about this, and she is absolutely not coming with us. But let's try to figure out a solution then, right? Because this is about my son and what he wants to do, and if he wants to spend a little bit of time with his mom, maybe you and I go to the Mall of America and we hang out for a little bit. And that's exactly what we did. But my wife was pissed, that my son's mom would even have the gall to sit there and try to hang out. And I got a nasty text from my son's mom, saying how whipped I was. And we were supposed to be there for we made it about us, or we made it about my wife, or this, that, and the other. And it should have been about what my son wanted. And I said, we were going to do this anyway. And how dare you try to intrude upon this? We came to a solution where you got to hang out with them. So the next day, his actual send-off at the MEPS Center, the MEPS Center, Military Enrollment Processing Station. The rules are he was only supposed to have 2 people in there with him, right? Originally, it was going to be his mom and myself. Now, his grandpa, being the military veteran that he was, this actually was the building that he worked at because he used to be a recruiter. So he's been in here all the time. He knows people. He knows it's kind of is not as strict as that. And so he was there in the morning, and so my wife had come with me as well, and on the offhand chance that we could maybe get in, right? Because we had talked to the recruiter the day before. He had mentioned, oh, yeah, I've seen people with like 4 or 5 kids in there. I've seen other people who weren't the mom or the dad in there. So you just go ahead and try. So we go ahead and we get in there, right? My son's grandpa gets us in. We're all hanging out. We watch him take the pledge. We take a bunch of pictures with him out while he's doing this. And then we get done, and his grandpa is showing us the side room where they have like this official looking podium, like basically like where the president would stand to give like a formal address, right? Or you would have like a camera crew come in to give like a formal address. And he says normally they'll do the pledges in there, but there's so many of them, they're going to do it on this big open hallway, which was part of the reason why they let so many people in for this ceremony. So they ask us, do you want to take some pictures in this room? So we go in there, and there's like some group photos with his mom and grandpa on one side, and then my wife and I on the other side, right? Group photos, no big deal. Then it's going to be, okay, his mom and grandpa are going to take one with my son.
Oh, my God.
Okay, I'm going to wear out the My Son sounder button for this episode.
I know. It's hard not to use his name and talk about all these people, right? It then becomes where my wife and I are going to get a picture with my son, just us. And
my son.
It's nice because it's this military gal. She's taking all the pictures for us. She's holding the phones. But as we go out to take the picture, so I'm looking at the military gal's phone. I'm not paying attention to what she's doing. She's lifting her phone up, and she's taking pictures of us. Which it took my wife to about a week to realize, which was a violation of the restraining order. She can't take any pictures of her without her permission, type of thing. And she did.
I can tell you from things that I know from people that know your ex, she's a big secret photo taker and sharer on Facebook.
Exactly.
And people are starting to get real piffed.
Exactly. And that's what she was doing. And ironically enough, it was my wife who saw it. And in the picture, you can actually see her looking directly at the camera, because I ended up asking my son's mom if she had any copies of the pictures from that day, because mine were kind of blurry, didn't turn out too well. And she then sent it to me, so now we have proof that she violated the restraining order, which is what my wife has been looking to kind of get her on something after all these years of just
Well, there was
kind of
the
dealing with
soccer
the
game
BS.
kerfuffle that seemed to me, in my opinion, to be a clear violation, but the judge was like, yeah,
Yep.
fucking bullshit.
Basically said it wasn't very clear that she was talking directly to her when she was. And with the HRO running out, it's one of those things where my wife wants to take care of it right away.
You have to.
Yep. So here is another wrinkle to this story. With my son leaving on the 24th, a little over 2 months before his 18th birthday, I had put in motion, literally a motion, to have child support terminated the day he left, since he would no longer be in either household, and also to have the insurance mandate drop since he was now going to be on the government's insurance.
And we're only talking about 2 months worth of child support, correct?
Only 2 months, which...
I just want to nail down the pettiness factor of what I assume is coming next, because you haven't told me this, and I didn't want you to tell me until we were sitting here so I could have a first-time reaction on the air.
Right. I filed this motion, ironically enough, on my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
The 28th.
Oh, bitch.
And the court date we got, no joke, is my son's birthday, the 27th of August.
That's wow.
That is ironic. And I think this is part of what led to my son's mom's confusion when she finally was served the papers. So I went and filed this.
Yourself?
Myself.
No attorney?
No attorney. And you want to talk about the pettiness. Basic support had gone up to $272 a month for me. I paid all of my son's medical insurance, dental insurance. I also covered co-pays, 70/30, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff was always handled, right? We ended up settling some of it because there was a stretch where it wasn't being paid back and forth. So that was how everything was laid out. Pretty much at this point, they're only taking basic support because there's no other child care or anything else that's factored in there. Hasn't been for a long time. But that's still $500 and almost $50, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was worth the $75 to file it. Also because I'm not just going to give her free money anymore after so many years of getting screwed out of my half of the tax returns, my half of all this other stuff that we agreed upon that she didn't end up coming forth or paying up with because she is a stingy bitch.
If I was to give her an NBA equivalent analogy, now I say that
The beast
is the Michael Jordan of bitch-ass baby mamas.
Okay, I like that.
I wouldn't quite give her Scottie Pippen status.
Okay,
Yours.
sure.
But she might be like a Ron Harper or a BJ Armstrong or a Steve Kerr.
Okay, fair enough.
Championship team,
I was
72-10.
I was thinking like an Allen Iverson, but that would imply that there's natural talent, and there's not any natural talent there. There's no.
I guess not Steve Kerr then, because she's not clutch. And she's
Yeah.
definitely not John Paxson.
No. Who likes to really take it in the ass?
Dennis Rodman.
Because apparently that's her thing.
Which, for those of you that don't know, the more you get fucked in the shithole, the looser your asshole gets, and then your farts and your poop just fall out of you.
And that's the comments. That's why it's getting well known, because I guess they've been widely talked about at various parties that that's what happens to her now.
Is that she just farts or that she poops her pants?
Well, like if she's having sex and she's on top, she can just randomly like let go.
What?
Of a fart or a turd? Because a fart is one thing, but shitting on somebody's balls...
I think it's shitting.
Ouch, that's... Wow.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Interesting.
But, okay, so not that much money, but still worth it to me for the fact of the years of frustration, everything
What's
else.
a word? You've been taken for granted.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's a kind way of putting it.
What's another word? Exploited, in a way.
That is much more fitting. All
Okay.
right, yes.
Because there's malice and hubris involved on her end.
Yes.
Where she's just like, fuck you owe me a living. Because she's one of those baby mamas that basically thinks you're an ATM and you fucking blowing a load inside of her and it yielding a progeny means that she is entitled to a lifetime of you helping her wipe her ass, no pun intended, financially.
I think she still looks forward to that connection even beyond this graduation that we still might have throughout the years that will somehow always be bonded. I think in some weird way in her twisted head, that's a thing for her. And to me, it's like, it's a curse, right? You know, it's like...
you count down the days when you make babies with somebody that you can't stand and you're stuck with them.
Yeah.
You count down the fucking days. If they're involved and you can't get rid of them or they don't just disappear,
Yep.
it is in your head constantly.
Absolutely.
So imagine the time that Chris Jericho debuted on Raw and they did that 10 count, the millennial countdown.
Yep.
That's an 18-year millennial countdown.
Right.
That and you don't always hear it. It's like when you're at Cheapo and you've been there enough times, you don't hear the CDs clacking. Like the guys that work there, like, I just tuned that shit out. I'm used to it.
Right.
You don't hear the countdown,
drone,
but
yeah.
it's always fucking going.
Yep.
Like a metronome in the back of your mind, just 1 second at a time, waiting for that shit to expire. Every birthday is like the fucking old regulator clocks. They're like, ding, 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 ding. And you're like, I'm getting there, bitch.
Right. And that was kind of the horizon, right? And I honestly thought I was going to have all summer to hang out with my boy, and he was going to go in when he turned 18 at the end of the summer, and she would have gotten her last 2 months, and we wipe our hands and wash our hands, and we move on with our life.
Or sometimes you wash your balls because she might have shat on them.
Apparently, right? He, when he told me that he was going to go in early and wanted to go in at the end of June and was pretty committed, and, you know, obviously the silver lining ended up becoming, I won't have to pay his mom the last 2 months. And everybody I talked to, every legal advice I got, other people, there was, and even my own understanding of the system and what child support is for, there's absolutely no reason why she should get it the last 2 months. I'm not supporting the child in her house.
No, he's the responsibility of the United States government now.
He's technically emancipated. When he signed on to join the Marines, we had to sign off on the paper that part of what we were doing was emancipating him so he could join the military early.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's basically on his own to make all of his decisions now. Technically, we could still be on the hook, I think, for his co-pays, for his medical bills until he's 18, but even that's a gray area because technically, I mean, he's earning his own money now. So yeah, that's actually how this goes. And so that was what I filed in the paperwork, that terminate child support due to emancipation of the child due to early enrollment in the Marines and the fact that he's not in the house anymore.
That's a fucking mouthful.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to give supporting evidence and your affidavit in support and all that other fun stuff. Anybody who's ever filed anything on their own knows the fun paperwork route. You have to file all this stuff, then you have to make 3 extra copies and file the original one with them, then you have to serve the county attorney, and you also have to serve them, and then keep one for yourself.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Is it just like you showed them a copy of his enlistment papers and then a picture of him getting on a plane?
I wish it was that easy. So what I did is I actually asked for a letter from his recruiter, and they got it to me within like a day. It was awesome.
That's the military. You give them a job, they're going to fucking do it.
Oh, they're all over it. They salivate for a task. So I got it right away, and so I filed that paperwork and with the affidavit in support of the motion. After filing that letter from the military with the affidavit in support, then basically you sit and wait for them to be served. And I actually had my wife serve the papers. You basically have to have somebody who's not affiliated with the case. She's not named on the case, so I could have her do it. So she went and actually mailed them off. So it was kind of this bonding moment for us, right?
Well, anytime you can stick it to your ex, it's just
right.
Like, ha, 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 ha.
Well, and especially given those two's history, right, with the restraining order and everything else.
She didn't like rubber stamp it with like pink ink that said "suck it, bitch" with like a grinning cat.
Oh, she wanted to write the words, something like "suck it, cunt nugget" or something to that effect on there. But discretion won out. So the county attorney gets served, right? And so how this works, because originally the county represented in the child support case, they have the ability to review it, and if they feel they need to represent, then they can step in. Well, I got a notification today that they will not be representing her. So, yay.
That she just like accepted it, or that they just looked at her and like, shut up, bitch?
I think they just looked at it and went, no, he's perfectly within his right, and we're not going to go and argue for it because the child's not in the house.
Isn't that a good feeling when you use the courts and win?
Yeah, because that didn't, it happened last time, but it didn't happen last time. There was a wrinkle in it. And then, of course, the whole experience my wife has had and not really getting the system to work for her. Yeah, it was kind of nice. I mean, we have to still go to the hearing and get the ruling and all this other stuff, but we'll see what happens. My son's mom yesterday reached out. She was... Yep. I just have to go and reference some of what was said.
Oh, God, I hope she was angry.
Oh, she was.
Oh,
she
fuck
was.
Yeah, this is going to be so good.
Yeah, so she was a bit ticked.
Fuck yeah.
That's one of my responses back.
Oh, God, I feel like a teenager who knows he's about to get a blowjob.
Yeah. The anticipation's building,
Fuck
right?
yeah.
She goes, you're wasting your time with this court nonsense when they already canceled child when he's 18. They told us both that SMH. And I said, well, if that's what you think this is all about, then you need to read it a little better. She goes, modification, which they won't do. Are you that hurt on money? I doubt, since you can't afford more than you know. Cheap ass. You can definitely buy material things for my son, which is not needed. I will be looking into because this is unnecessary BS and going to court prior because your wife is a cop caller. Going back to the time where she tried to get her for the violation of the HRO last fall. I'd say both you are harassing me by taking time out of my day work because they have nothing else better to do. They will not adjust since he's almost 18. Good Lord. And I said, well, you are an idiot and obviously don't understand what the motion is about. So I explain it, the whole thing to her, all this other stuff.
Was she still, after the explanation, she was the victim and you're the tyrant? Because I feel like that would be very on brand.
So I sent her this huge long text. I don't know how many pages of text that really is when you break it down.
Holy fuck.
She goes, I definitely know what emotion is firsthand, so good! ! $120 per month barely is what you're giving me. I go, LOL, you must be drunk. Basic support went up to $275 a month due to COLA last fall. And I actually was wrong. It was $272, and I sent her a picture of it, correcting myself. So I was off by $3. And she says, you're wasting your time. You're cry me a fucking river, dipshit. And know and see the little pussy amount. And I said, cry you river after you try to guilt me and make you feel free, as you put it, a little pussy amount. I said, how easily you get rattled when faced with the facts. You fucking suck. One would think you have gotten better over the years, but you've just gotten worse. Pretty sure the co-parenting situation wasn't so shitty we wouldn't have to go to court for this shit, but here we are thanks to you. And she goes, is a little bitch, hasn't done shit but for her own self. Just like her weaseling in when they said parents only, biological parents, like he came out of my vagina in your sperm. Where did she come in? She didn't, she's not a parent or never will be, period. Effing doesn't listen to a fucking thing. And she goes, I see 108.53 and 14.58 one a month. And I basically went back and said to her, I'm sure you get that twice a month because they deduct, I get paid twice a month. So I'm sure they deduct it and give it to her.
And they take their 2%.
Yep. And I go, there's no way they take that much. There's no way. So she was like trying to claim this thing about how it should have only been two parents in there when my son shipped out and all this other stuff. And it was like, well, let's see. His grandpa was there. Other people had their siblings there, like whoever's shipping out siblings there. And I go, your whole vagina and sperm equation doesn't work out. The math doesn't work.
What it boils down to is it's just like when I got married and the beast was livid and didn't want to admit it, but she basically told the girls, like, don't call her mom. She's not your mom. Yep. It's like, okay, you fucking calm down. But I guess, like, if she somehow found somebody dumb enough to marry her and they were like, well, you can call me dad. Like, no, you can call him other dad.
Right.
I'm good at tacking other in front of people's names when there's more than one of us.
Timu dad.
Like, fucking just call him by his name just to fuck with him like I do with my mom.
Yeah. And that's the thing is my wife was never trying to replace her. This was all my son's mom. Her own paranoia, her own cuntiness, her own bitchiness, her own insecurity, her own mad because her safety blanket in me that she thought was always going to be there was not going to be there anymore and never was there. It was just a misperception she had that I was, right?
Did she think that, like, she was going to go off and play the Field of Dicks and then somehow magically she was going to have, like, a fucking Hallmark movie moment where you guys come back together?
I would always be waiting there, and yes, and she could probably go off and come back for a few years and then go off and have another Field of Dicks to ride and sit on and loosen her asshole some more.
Oh yeah,
right. Whatever.
Just like did you watch the show Workaholics?
Oh yeah, I saw the first season. I loved that.
So there's a saying on the show like, God, you're being so loose butthole right now.
Yeah.
There's an episode where they go and they get 8x10s, like some guy at the mall is like telling him, you could be a model to Durs. And then Adam is standing in line talking to some little girl. He's like, God, you're so loose butthole. And she goes and gets her mom and a security guard. He's like, no, I didn't say you have a loose butthole. I said you're being loose butthole.
Yep.
Like, it's totally different.
Totally different.
Let me wrap it just by sharing this with you. I don't know if I told you this. When I came to the grad party and I went downstairs to talk to the boy.
Yeah.
Now, I walked in, he's like, oh my God, you came. I'm like, I'm not going to fucking miss this, dude. Come on. I've been around in your life like forever. And I give him a hug and I'm like, I'm so proud of you right now. You're doing so. I'm getting emotional now. Like, thinking about what I said to him. I almost started fucking crying in front of his goddamn friends.
Right? It was hard not to do that. I was like, day.
Fuck, I'm so proud of this kid. And he's had kind of a rough last couple of years with some poor choices. We don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
But he almost got himself in trouble a couple of times with the law.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm like, I just want to give you a couple pieces of advice, and I really need you to hear me on this. I wouldn't say this shit if it wasn't important, okay? Number one, do not fuck this up. He's like, I know. Like, no. But listen to me. When you're on base, if you get leave and your friends are like, let's go to a bar, please don't ever let me find out that you got dishonorably discharged because you got too drunk and threw your entire future away on a fucking fight when you're shit-faced or a DUI, kid, please. And also, be careful if you're at a bar, on leave, drinking with your friends. Please don't let any girl ever talk you into anything that you're not sure about because you don't know her and you get fucking Me Too'd. Like, you will be set for life. You'll get your college paid for mostly. You'll be able to get a number of jobs because of it.
Yep.
You'll always have veterans benefits. Like, you think you know the immense nature of this. But holy shit, you can't fuck this up. If you do this, you will be so good for so long. Like, I'm already proud of you now. Fucking however long you stay at this, just always take it seriously and know that one simple mistake can take it all away from you.
Yeah.
He's like, I know, thank you. And his friends were just kind of looking at me like, who is this guy?
Who is lecturing?
Why is he giving him this advice and also swearing so much?
Yeah, probably.
Because I think it's like, don't ever let some dumb bitch trick you into knocking her up or you get Me Too'd, all right? Because that will fuck your whole life up forever.
So what's been great about, and also the difficult part of him leaving is, I think because of some of the shit he's gone through, not only while living at his mom's place, stuff that we didn't fully realize, but also just, some of the bad decisions, he's really come out of his shell. And I think the closer he was getting to the shipping out, the more talkative he was becoming about some of the stuff. Because he was a typical teenager in many ways. It was hard to get him to open up about stuff. It was hard to get him to open up about more than stuff that was sports or video games. For a while there, it was, at least we had his girlfriend, you could ask him about what they were doing and, things like that. But it was towards the end, he started chatting more and my wife started sharing, had a chat with him, and he shared some stuff that I don't think I will ever have to worry about him and drinking.
Yeah. Because of what he saw from his mom?
100%.
Okay.
He does, and that's part of the reason, we're pretty sure, that's part of the reason why he entered the military early, was because of some of the problems he had over this last year. He doesn't want to turn out like his mom. He does not want to end up like her. And his mom got into a lot of trouble kind of just out of high school as well, too. He hasn't touched alcohol at all.
That's good. That's like me with my daughters. I don't think I ever have to worry about them drinking or doing drugs because of what the beast did.
Right.
In 2020 and 2021.
Right. It's one thing if it's casual. It's another thing if it's just to the extreme and you see how detrimental it is.
And it has adverse effects on your home life as a child. And you're like, I don't want to turn out like this.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Right.
Well, that's good to know.
It's kind of nice. The phone call came to me when he got to San Diego. The letters came to me. I'm not saying I've won on any certain level, but it means something that
you feel vindicated of all the suffering that you went through all these years dealing with her, and that you put in all this effort to keep him on the straight and narrow while there's this outside influence of 50% of his time and brain power. But it's like, all right, good, he heard me. It's not like you won, but you got the effect you were hoping for, so you feel like the payoff is that you raised him right enough that he sees the mistakes that she's making. And this isn't just me saying that to bash her. He sees what she's doing wrong, what you're doing right, and he wants to give you your flowers for that thank you. That's what the letters are, whether he's saying thanks, Dad. But that's you getting what you deserve for parenting so hard. And when you're in situations like ours, that's all you can hope for is to get to the finish line of 18 and hope that they don't just hate you both for ridiculous reasons, whether deserved or undeserved,
right?
But to just get that, those cheesy fucking commercials they run on fucking Canadian TV channels we get here. They're like, thanks, Dad. Just thanks so much for everything. And they're all fucking hugging it out and shit. That's what you're feeling. You're just like, oh, fuck yeah. There's the greatest gift he can give you is to not turn out like her.
And what you said is all correct. Absolutely.
So there you have it. His boy is off there fighting the good fight, learning how to be a man. His titties are probably pretty sore from push-ups.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully they're not kicking the shit out of him in self-defense combat training yet. Too bad.
He actually this week will be using the the Q-tip sticks. I forget what they're
Jousting?
Pugil sticks, I think they call them.
Okay.
Pugil, they're the padded foam sticks, almost like on American Gladiator, but not as exaggerated. But yeah, they actually will sit there and bash each other. So yeah, he's definitely starting some of that combat training.
Neat.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll turn out like Gung Ho from G.I. Joe and get a big Marine emblem tattoo right on the middle of his chest.
One can hope.
So big that you can't ignore it, and that he wears a vest open at all times so you can view at least part of it so that he can be anywhere and go, I am a Marine.
Right? You have to stay perfectly cut like that the whole time, too.
Yeah, there's no off days. Yeah. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It Podcast Show. For the What Do We Call It Podcast, I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
And that's the end.